What's up, YouTube? This is the Mermail Master coming at you from the Team Time Riders Yugioh channel with a special video courtesy of the one and only Mr. Francisco Perdomo, otherwise known as Dark World. Special shout out to him and to the rest of the Team Time Riders team. Today I'm bringing you a casual Elemental Hero deck profile courtesy of my Elemental Hero collection. Now this is something that I've been meaning to profile for a little while because I believe that it has a lot of viability specifically for local tournaments on a more casual, sort of closer knit kind of thing. So without further ado, I'd like to get started on the deck profile and explain some of the things that I personally like about the deck and how, if you're starting out in the game and you really like watching the GX anime, that you'll be able to use to your advantage. So a lot of these choices are going to be self-explanatory, and they're more of choices for Jaden's pick. And of course, you can have as many different types of monsters in your main and extra deck as you would like that sort of corroborate with the theme, but this is like a nice starting point. So I'm going to start off with the first monsters in my deck, starting off with Elemental Hero Avion, sort of self-explanatory kind of card, one of Jaden's main monsters. And following that is Elemental Hero Burstinatrix. Both are two halves of the Flame Wingman combo. Now I like playing only one of each of these guys, particularly because of how weak they are. If they were stronger monsters, for instance, you can make more, varied and diverse plays, but both of them are weak normal monsters, and their only purpose serves to be able to, get out Flame Wingman, who itself is not really that strong. So I'm only having one of each in here to restrict the number of bad hands that you'll draw. Next monster, of course, is one Bubble Man. Now, most people like to run more than one Bubble Man, but the reason Bubble Man is in here is because he doesn't really have many fusions that he, can sort of go to that are better than most other fusions. So, for instance, if you combine him with Burstinatrix, he'll make Steam Healer, but Steam Healer is pretty much a worse version of Flame Wingman with lower attack power. And then Avion and Bubble Man create Mariner, who you'll almost never be able to use. It's a very situational kind of card. Not to mention, this deck runs a lot of monsters, so you'll very rarely be getting off any of the rank 4 combos that you're looking to use. If you want to run that, look more towards like a Masked Hero build or something of that nature. Run one Wild Heart for its fusion ability, but it has a surprising ability to be able to be used for interacting with, better cards, such as like a die-on play or anything with mass change, but at the same time, his ability to be unaffected by trap cards means that he does actually have some use and can beat forward through fields that you wouldn't otherwise be able to get around. Next cards are, of course, two Sparkmen. Sparkman, I think, is the best of the normal heroes, and he has the best fusions. You can make Dark Bright, you can make Plasma Vice, you can make Thunder Giant. Just some of the best fusion monsters in Jaden's extra deck are with Sparkman. So I believe that he is a monster that is best served at 2 in the deck. One Necroshade. Necroshade is the combination with Wild Heart for Necro Shaman, who's very good, and as well as for Sparkman to make Dark Bright or The Shining. And the reason I have Wild Heart and Necroshade for Necro Shaman is actually because, sometimes if you're playing against like a Chaos Dragon deck or some deck where they can run Battle Fader or Gores, Necro Shaman pops a monster and then special summons a monster from your opponent's graveyard, any monster that you choose. So you basically pop it, and then if they drop like a Max C or like an Effect Veil, special summon that in attack mode, and you can attack over that monster for 1900 without ever having to move forward on that aspect. So the next card I would like to put in here is Clayman, but I currently don't have a Clayman to show at this current point in time, so unfortunately we're going to have to get a little bit past that. But Clayman is useful for some of the other cards in the deck. Next, for the one tributes, we have one copy of Elemental Hero Blade Edge and one copy of Elemental Hero Neos. Blade Edge is good for piercing damage, And then Neos is just sort of in here to be like, you know, it's one of Jaden's star monsters, so, you know, go figure, have Neos in the deck for those purposes. And finally, one copy of Neos Alias. Neos Alias is in here more for beating power as well as his ability to turn into Neos, which you might need more often than not, especially for those casual duels. One copy of Elemental Hero Ocean. You special summon him with a Hero Lives or with your copy of Hero Signal, and then during the next standby phases, he fetches a card back to your hand. One Blazeman. Blazeman is like Woodman on crack plus extra. So rather than waiting for one turn for Woodsman's effect to get off, you can just summon Blazeman. Blazeman will activate its effect, fetch you a polymerization right away, and if you're lucky enough to have Blazeman survive, you can ditch like a Necro Shade or something else to the graveyard to really push forward your Blaze. Now, moving into some Neospacians we have. Since we run Neos and Neos Alias, might as well have some of the Neospacians. Aqua Dolphin, not really useful effect, but he's a cool monster to have in here anyway, and he was one of Jaden's first Neospacians. Air Hummingbird. Air Hummingbird is fantastic. Great first turn play, gain 2,500 life points. The more cards your opponent has in their hand, the better he becomes. So let's say if your opponent takes a massive Max C challenge and gets a ton of cards in your hand, then you can just summon an Air Hummingbird right out and pretty much gain a whole ton of life points and make yourself untouchable. One copy of Neospacian Grand Mole. Grand Mole is by far the best of the Neospacians. Bounce back an opponent's monster. It's non-targeting bouncing ability, and doesn't really get much better than that. The only problem is you have to attack, but other than that, it's fine. One copy of Card Trooper, one of Jaden's best monsters. Mill 3 cards from the top of your deck, gain 1,500 attack power. And then finally, Yugioh, because as a young child, this was the Jaden monster. This is his partnered spirit, kind of like the Pharaoh is to Yugi, so I just figured it was necessary to include him as a one-of in the deck. So that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10. 17 monsters in the deck. Moving on to the spell cards. To start off the spell cards, what would a Jaden hero deck be without 3 copies of Polymerization? It makes all your fusion pays live and helps you out to be able to get some of your bigger beaters out in the field. 2 Warrior Turning Alive. Sometimes, more often than not, you're going to have a lot of people like running through your Avians, running through your Burstinatrixes. Warrior Returning Alive is kind of like Rhoda, except not limited to 1, and it'll fetch you back any of your warriors, regardless of level. Rhoda, self-explanatory, fetch a level 4 warrior or lower. 1 copy of Miracle Fusion. Miracle Fusion will help you banish monsters in your graveyard to make more fusion elemental hero monsters. So really, really good card to have in the deck. Wrath of Neos. Now I actually like Wrath of Neos, particularly because you just bounce back a Neos monster and destroy all cards on the field. So rather than having to wait several turns to get your opponent's field clear, if you have a Neos or a Neos Alias treated as Neos on the field, you just activate Wrath, bounce it back to the deck, and then pretty much wreck face on your opponent from there. That's especially great if you have a Polymerization or Miracle Fusion play ready to go in the wings, and you can just push that forward. 1 copy of Our Righteous Justice, destroys spells and traps. Pretty self-explanatory. Really, really good card. Next, on to specific support. Skyscraper 2, Hero City. It's going to be lots of battle destruction. Your monsters are not impervious. So one of the best plays that I had was, activating Skyscraper 2, Hero City to reborn back a Neos Alias, then normal summon it to make it Neos, then activate Neos Force, or Wrath of Neos, send it back to the deck, destroy all cards on the field, and then pretty much proceed to destroy your opponent from there. Bubble Blaster, great to equip to Bubble Man, protects him from battle, and gives him 800 attack power. Bubble Illusion, one of my personal favorite cards in this deck, allows you to basically use any trap card you want on your turn. So if you have like a Hero Signal or something, a Hero Blast, maybe like you know, hero medal or any kind of card. It allows you to be more proactive in your plays, particularly if you have Bubble Man on the field, and allows you to activate trap cards from your hand. And then finally, Burst Return. Burst Return, when you have Burstinatrix on the field, get your elemental heroes back to the hand. This is great. I actually used this one time when my Blaze Man had its effect already activated, got Fiendish Chain. I was able to bounce my Blaze Man back to my hand, reset its effect, and then normal summon it to grab a Polymerization. So, a lot of people give Burst Return a lot of crap, but I think it's a very, very useful card, particularly for making sure that you can get your elemental hero monsters effects off. Now moving on to the trap cards. 3 Hero Signal. Self-explanatory. When a monster is destroyed, special summon a level 4 lower hero monster from your deck. Basically just allows you to get any hero that you need for the next turn, and it's not once per turn, so if you have several of them set, you can just keep cycling through hero monsters, end up in an ocean or something, grab whatever you want back to your hand, and move forward from there. 1 Hero Blast. Target a normal elemental hero monster in your graveyard, get like a Neos or something back to your hand, and then destroy a monster your opponent controls. This was one of the cards that I mentioned could be useful with the Bubble Man play with Bubble Illusion. Activate Hero Blast and destroy your opponent's Neo monsters from there. 1 copy of Hero Barrier allows you to negate an attack whenever your opponent would activate or attack an elemental hero monster or any monster on the field. Clay Charge goes with those Claymans. When an opponent attacks Clayman, destroy a monster you control, and then destroy that Clayman and then inflict 800 points of damage to your opponent after destroying their monster. So that's a little bit of cowboy damage right in there. Hero Metal is a little bit of draw power, and it'll distract you from your opponent's play. So if they try to MST you or Twin Twister you, you can just get that Hero Metal right out there and make sure that they don't make any play on you. Rope of Life. Great card. Discard your whole hand to reborn a monster back to the field. If you have like a Necro Shade or like a Card Trooper, stuff that you really want in the graveyard but don't have yet, just activate Rope of Life, reborn whatever you need, and then send all the stuff that you need to the graveyard. Really, really good card. 1 Hero Ring. Lots and lots of protection. I once actually sat on a Hero Ring for a long, long time, waiting for my opponent to make a move, and they were not able to destroy it. So it basically protects, like, your Avian or your Burstinatrix for a turn until you can mount an offensive with another play. You can even use it to protect a Bladesman, for instance. Prevent it from being destroyed by, like, any of your opponent's big monsters. The final card in the deck, of course, is Battle Guard Howling, one of the best warrior support cards to come out in a long time, I think. Bounces back an opponent's monster who attacks a warrior monster, and then inflicts damage equal to that monster's attack power. So this could be very well the thing that ends the game for your opponent, and it's just a good card. So, once again, that's going to be 40 cards in my Elemental Hero deck, and I'd like to thank you guys all for watching and staying tuned on the Team Time Riders YouTube channel. Once again, this is the Mermail Master, and I'm signing out.